I'd like to bring us back to order. The City Council's next committee meeting is the Planning Committee, chaired by Councilor Jean Knudsen.
Thank you, Michael. We have one item, consideration request to add a new comprehensive plan amendment to docket for review. Go ahead, Uncle Greg.
Good afternoon, Council. Greg Ockett, Planning and Community Development Department. I have good news and I have bad news for you this afternoon. The good news is, as you know, the city purchased land in the Cordata neighborhood in 2015 for a much-needed neighborhood park. This is a fast-growing neighborhood. The bad news is that the current zoning doesn't allow parks as a permitted use. The good news is that with the biennial budget that you just passed and the passage of the Greenways levy, we can actually begin development of the park sooner than what we anticipated. So that's good news. The bad news is that the current zoning does not allow parks as a permitted use. The good news is that the city has a process for docketing comp plan amendments, annual comp plan amendments. The bad news is that we've already passed the deadline for this year's round of amendments.
You can stop now.
Good news is
Well,
we have say.
I'm getting to the best part. The good news is that when we updated the comp plan amendment rules in 2011, a provision was added that allows council to docket a proposal at any point during the year. And we're at a good spot right now in terms of our process for docketing an additional amendment. We're just starting to review the two that we're already docketed, looking at the merits of those, and those will be going to the Planning Commission very soon. So we're at a good point to add one if you choose to do so. And that's what we're here asking you to do. We're recommending that this proposal be added to the docket so that we can review it this year. If we don't do that, then we're put back another year, and we don't want to do that. So again, we're recommending that you place this on the docket for review this year. And if you have any questions about the process or the property or the timing of construction, we have park staff here as well to answer those questions.
Okay, I forgot to mention with me on the committee is Dan Hamill and April Barker. Committee, Dan.
I'm going to move approval of this proposed amendment that would revise the comprehensive plan and zoning designations for the new Cordata Community Park.
April.
How, if we approve this, how is this going to impact the other properties that are within that area 11?
Well, Kathy's here to, she knows the history. There's quite a history on this property, and there's actually a site plan that was approved, including the park property, before it was park property. There's a site plan that covers this entire property. We'll have to make amendments to the zoning for the property to the south as well. But those will just be zoning amendments. We don't need you to docket those, but they will be part of the process. We'll process those together so that people can see the big picture of what's going to happen on this entire site.
Go ahead.
And those property owners are aware that we're in this process right
Yes.
now? So
Yes.
they would have given comment or?
They will be part of the process. They'll participate, yeah.
Oh, as we go forward. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Michael.
So I think there's actually one more bad news you left out. My understanding is that the central portion of the property is still in private hands, but the long-term plan is that will probably at some point be deeded over to the city, at which point I think it will also need the same comp plan amendment to be part of the park. And then the good news is there was a public meeting this last week, and up at the church in the Birchwood area, or off Birchwood Avenue, but it's not Birchwood Church, where the Parks Department is already going through a planning process with the community. There already is a site plan which appears to be consistent with the ground conditions and where the wetlands are, and that planning process will continue to go forward, but that it kind of depends upon this zoning. So the process is all pretty far along. Unfortunately, there's a middle piece that will need to come in a little bit later, even if this comp plan amendment is approved. So it's really a comment.
Okay. Any other questions? Leslie, you want to add anything? Come on up. You want to say anything, Kathy? Since your name was mentioned. You're never a good news, bad news person anyway. You're always good news.
I was just going to respond to Michael about that middle parcel that the circle goes around. Did you want to put this up on the? Oh. I'm going to be routine. So you're talking about this piece here, which is still owned by the Cordata Business Park, and it's a wetland. So although it's surrounded by park and we have been in conversations with them about deeding it to the city, it's not really included in the master plan. So if it comes in later, I think that's fine. Oh, no, Kathy.
I know, sorry. Kathy Bell, Planning, but to specifically address your question, this wetland parcel was not originally included in the overall site plan, which is the reason why we need to come forward for a comprehensive plan amendment and rezones. And within the underlying zoning of this piece of property, parks and open spaces are permitted uses.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, it would not have to be zoned public, if that is this direct
You're saying,
answer.
so it could be part of the plan even with its current non-park zoning, non-public zoning?
Correct. And the original site plan not only included these 20 acres, but it also included the property here and then the 5 acres to the south. It never included this wetland tract. Therefore, it's not subject to the same provisions or requests that are being presented today. And park, trail, and open space is a permitted use of the underlying zoning, of the zoning of this parcel.
April, you had your hand up again? Go ahead.
So just for future, when we have parks property, I guess I'm confused as to, we are quite far through we're already on our third meeting with the community on design or basic amenities that will be there. Once we buy a park property and we know that we're intending to develop it, why is it coming in the future? Do they usually come sooner and this one just happens to become later? Do we have a way to, I mean, if we would have said no, you would have done a bunch of work that.
As I say, my good news here is I get to sit down and let Leslie answer this one.
Well, thank you very much.
So as you notice what Kathy said about this property here in the middle is that it wasn't part of the development plan, and so park uses are allowed there. Almost every zone in the city allows for parks. They are an allowed use in every zone. The reason they're not allowed here is because this rezone of this property was based on a specific site plan, and only that site plan is what can be developed, and that site plan didn't include a park. So that's why we're going through this docketing.
Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, any other questions? The good news is we're going to vote now. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, there's nobody opposed. 3-0, passes. End of